I welcome you to another animal painting tutorial for stress relief. And in today's tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to paint your pet. Now, we're actually specifically painting Olive. This dog I chose because of how great of an example Olive is for a general idea on how to paint a nose, a dog's eyes, a dog's snout, dog's ears. And so if you have a long-haired dog, or maybe you have a German Shepherd, or maybe you have a pug, you can still find this very beneficial for learning how to use acrylics and learning how to paint the specific features of a dog. If you want to go in more detail with learning how to paint your pet, I have this masterclass where I post every month new pet and or wildlife tutorials each month. Now, starting this month, I'm actually offering traceable printouts for my masterclass students and for my YouTube channel. However, for masterclass students, all these traceables are included in their membership. So if that's something you're interested in, I have all the links in the description box below. And without further ado, guys, let's get painting. Before we get started painting, the first steps that I took was first I painted the canvas with 2 coats of light blue, and then once that dried, I traced my traceable printout of Olive over top the canvas, which is all in the description box below. Starting off, I'm going to start with black. I'm going to go in with straight black, and I just want to start working on the main focal point, which is our eyes. I'm not going to paint over the highlight, but I'm just going to paint in Olive's eye. And we're going to do that to both of them. Now I'm actually going to extend that black up because there's a shadow on his eye. Now this dog I actually I don't know entirely how I found Olive online, but he is I'm also going to extend this one up because there's a really dark shadow on both eyes, like right above the main eye. And then we're going to have to create a shadow underneath. It'll be like a light gray. And notice I didn't cover up the highlights here. Those are still there. And I'm going to do the darkest part. We're always going to start with our darkest tones with acrylics. I don't always start with black, but in this case, this is a bit of an abstract dog. And plus, I really want to help my beginner artists out there, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to start with black. I'm just filled in the nostrils with black. And now I'm going to fill in the bottom. If you watch me, I'm just kind of creating a V with my detail brush. By the way, I didn't mention this, the background is a lake blue. So I painted the lake blue, drew the dingo. I'm calling him a dingo because Olive's Instagram name is Olive the Dingo Dog. Let me double check that. Yeah, Olive the Dingo Dog. If you want to look her up, I'll also put that in the links below. She is the cutest dog, such a well-trained dog. This dog literally can sit there without jumping after her treats, and her treats are just balanced all over her body. It's just incredible. And I admire the training that this dog went through because our dogs definitely can't do that. No way, Jose. Our dogs would not be able to last without eating whatever's around them. So right now I just created that little slit in the mouth. I am going to create that lower lip. And for the most part, that is where our black is going to go. I'm going to extend just last bit of black. I'm just going to extend that black up around the nose. I'm just looking at my reference photo and finding any black that I see. And that is it. Unless we find something later. So I'm gonna wash up my detail brush. And the next color we're gonna make is gray. And I'm gonna mix that with my detail brush. Oh, I didn't even add titanium white. I'm gonna add some titanium white. Okay, so I'm gonna make a gray, and this gray is gonna be relatively light. We don't want it too dark because then it won't really show up over top the colors we just added. So I'm gonna test it just to see. Nope, that's actually too light. I wanna make it a bit darker than that. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more black to that. Okay, I'm going to test it again, and I like it. That's the darkness I want. So right now I'm creating that little darkness underneath olives. It's a bit hard when I created so much paint. I created way too much. And we're going to use our detail brush to do the gray underneath her nose. They are not sure what kind of dog Olive is, but they think she's a Carolina mix. And I think she has a little bit of maybe red heeler in her just because of her coat, maybe. I've never seen her in person, but who knows? But she just looks like such a sweetheart. All right, so I just created that gray underneath the lower lip. And now I'm going to add that gray to the lower eye and both eyes. As well as right framing the lower lip. Now we're going to add some tan underneath, like right here, but for now that's just going to be light gray. And I spotted, nope, that should do it. Okay, so we're gonna wash out our brush. Now the gray that we just made, I love doing this. So I don't have to waste paint and just mix up a whole nother section of paint. I like to just add color to the paint I just mixed. And we just mixed a dark gray, so we're gonna add blue to that because we're gonna make her nose blue. So we're gonna add, what blue do I want? Now this is the hardest thing to say. Phthalocyanine Blue. Phthalocyanine Blue. Okay, we're gonna add Phthalocyanine Blue to the gray that we just made. I actually had to Google that and listen to how it's pronounced because that darn word is so hard to pronounce. Okay, so I'm mixing up some of this Phthalocyanine Blue with my gray that I just mixed. I want to add a little bit more white to it just to bring out that blue. Okie doke, so we're going to cover. Now that might be too dark. Let's try it. Let's just try it. Okay, so we're going to use this blue that we just created. We might go over it with something else later, but we'll see. I'm gonna test it. Gonna see how it looks for now. And I'm just using my detail brush still to paint around those nostrils and that little slit that we made. Okey-doke. Great. We're gonna wash out our brush. All right, I'm not even going to use this brush anymore. We're gonna switch to creating the dark tone of the hair. And what color do I want? I'm going to use this medium flat brush. So medium flat brush is what we're going to use to mix up and add the darn pencil, the tan of the main tan of her coat. And what I'm going to use for that is raw sienna mixed in with red, permanent red, yellow, because we really want to make that more orange, I'm going to test it because I'm not sure if I want this to be the main color. So I'm going to find a dark section and test the area with this color. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to add just a little bit more red. Really want to make, I love adding, kind of distorting color a little bit with all sorts of colors. Even if this dog, even if her coat is just a bit tan, I like adding colors that kind of are around that tan. So in this case, we're adding red. So I just added a little bit more red to that. And so now I'm just going to go find those dark areas, which are, if you just watch me, I'm looking at the reference photo to find where those darkest tones are, meaning it's getting the least amount of light. And I'm just going to place those in as so, with this beautiful orange. There's actually, I'm using the edge, the corner edge of my brush to get into those little nooks and crannies. There's a bit of a shadow being created by those cookies, those little dog treats that she's holding on her nose. I wonder how she got her dog to do this. How can you get your dog to do this? I do not know. Okay. I'm literally just dissecting every part of the dog. So whenever you're doing a pet portrait, we'll just focus on one area, then you move up a little bit more. I'm kind of going like this. And now we're going to move on to the ear, just finding where those dark areas are. And then just placing them. And notice there's no shape that I'm following. I'm just placing them where I see them. And make sure you mix up enough of this color because it looks like she has quite a bit of this dark. Now, just a little reminder, if you have any trouble during this tutorial painting the eyes or painting the nose, on my masterclass, will be posting about 6 different tutorials going through every kind of part of a dog. So I'll have one for ears, I'll have one showing you how to do eyes, I'll have one showing you how to do noses. For dogs, I haven't added any yet for other animals, but I'll definitely be getting to those. So if you'd like to learn how to paint your pet and you want to know how to paint every part of your pet, I will offer that in very shortly to my masterclass students, and those tutorials will forever be up. I don't just take them down. I leave them up for everyone to watch them on my class. I'm now moving on to the next ear, and this ear seems to have a lot more darkness in it. I've decided that I'm going to paint the center of it with this color on both ears. Okay, I'm going to mix up a little bit more of this color because I definitely didn't make enough. So I'm also going to get that side leg and around here as well. Now don't forget the sides of your painting. I'm going to use this color just to get the side. All right, I think we are done with that color for now. I don't see any places that we've missed. I lied, just a little bit underneath here. Okay, moving on, we're going to wash out our brushes. And now the next color is Naples Yellow. So that orange that we just made, we're going to add Naples Yellow to it and a bit more raw sienna. I don't like to waste color. And so I'm just going to add that straight to that orange that we just made. And then I'm going to test. This may be a little too light. Yeah, I'm going to add a little bit more raw sienna. Okay. Raw sienna. Now that's a bit darker, and I'm gonna roll with it. So we're gonna add that to adding our medium tones right now. I'm gonna work that. I might even have to start using my other brush, but I'm gonna just get the larger sections first. Using the edge of my brush to really get in between those smaller areas. Yeah, see? I decided I'm going to use my small flat brush. So this thing is much smaller and it's got that flat edge like the one I was just using. All right, so going on the side of the snout. This, guys, you'll notice it's really hard to paint and talk. That's why I always do voiceovers. It is challenging, but I really want to get better at it. With so many things that I'm doing right now with my masterclass and my tutorials on YouTube, try to save some time, and this really saves some time. It takes, I'm not saying this to brag, or I don't know how you'd look at this, but it takes me 40 hours to edit and film and do everything I need to for each tutorial that I make. So it's a lot of time. And so any moment that I can save time, I will take full advantage of. And plus, this is just way more fun. I think this is actually more fun to have this be more real. Okay, so we just did the whole right side of Olive's face. You notice that there's some areas, because this is such a dark blue over this lighter color, we might have to do a second coat over that. So definitely make enough of this color, and then you might even need to use your spray bottle to keep that wet while we move on to different parts. So we're going to move on to different parts, but make sure you have enough, and then if it dries, have that spray bottle handy. Okay, so I'm going to use this color to paint the head. This color looks really good over this blue. I've never used this blue before, this lake blue. I really like it. And you guys don't have to use this blue, by the way. The complementary color of blue is orange, which is why I chose blue for the background, but you don't have to use blue. You can use purple, you can use green, whatever you decide. But I just thought that this would be so much fun because it's just such a colorful, adorable, uplifting tutorial. Plus, it'll help you learn how to paint your pet, if that's something that you would like to try to attempt. I'm just working around. I'm going into over top that dark orange that we made. Going to kind of go over top that just to create that angle of the snout. I'm going to have that go up the nose and a little bit right underneath the cookie, the first cookie. And then come around the nose. I'm going to leave that a different color. I'm sorry, I'm going to leave that because we're going to paint it a different color. But I'm working down the dog's body, and I'm going to overlap. I'm going over some of this orange because it should be a little bit lighter. I'm going to leave that color too, and I'm just going to make this lighter orange go over top the leg, the front leg. And on the side here as well. Okay, so that's that for the body. And now I'm going to move on to parts of the ear. Now you may have to use a smaller brush for the ears because this is an 8x10, this is quite a smaller sketch. But I'm going to still use the edge of my brush, and I'm going to, with a steady hand, I'm just going to kind of outline parts of the ear. So if you watch me, I'm going to outline the inside of the ear and come down. I'm not outlining the outside, I'm actually working in her ear. And as I go up, it's actually getting skinnier at the top. And this is going to come down. There's that little pocket in the dog's ear. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Except one thing that I didn't mention is I'm also just doing the very top of the ear. So I started with the inside, and now I did just the very top, just that part. But now I'm going to work from the inside, going skinnier at the top. Creating that pocket. Okay, and this part I'm actually going to outline. This is going to be lighter because the light source, and that's important to know whenever you're doing a painting, is from the right side. And so that's why we're gonna, our next color, oh, I forgot this top part. Our next color is going to be much lighter for that side. And then we're going to go back to these darker colors. All right, so with that we just made, that color that we just made, I'm going to add some pink to that. So some portrait pink. It's a very, very light, soft pink. And instead of using just straight titanium white, I like to use this pink a lot, because titanium white can kind of make it look ghost-like, and I don't like that look. I still want to have some vibrant color in there. So let's test it. See this color? Oh, and by the way, I think one thing that you don't want to do is mix all of that color. You want to have some of that color left over when we're doing that second coat. And I didn't do that. I used the full color. So that's okay. I'm going to have to remix it later. That is quite okay. All right, so right now I'm getting the lightest parts of her face, which is right above her eye. So if you watch me, I'm not covering the whole eye because that is part of her eyelid that we're gonna do detail work on. There's just a little like crease in her face right there where her eye is, and so I'm leaving that with I'm leaving that tannish. I'm gonna have this go down. There's a line that carries that light down towards the front of her face. And I'm going to paint the side of her face and leaving some of that left over on her snout. I lied. Because there's such a strong light source, it actually covers up the whole thing. And then the other part that is pretty light is right in here, like that. Okay, now the light is kind of swinging around the cookies and coming to her forehead and just the top part of her eye. So I'm going to paint this over with this lighter color. Okay, so I'm trying to see where else I see this color. I see it right here in the back of her, on her back. I see it on the side of her arm, as well as right around the side. I'm going to paint, even though this is white, I want to put a base coat down of this little white spot that she has on her chest. Okay. Okay, the other place I see it is there's just a little bit on the side of her head. There is a couple spots of this light that we're going to paint where the light is hitting on the ear. Right in here. There's also parts right there. Okay. And that should be it for that color. I'm debating whether I want to use, no. Okay, so we're going to mix our brush and we're going to create a different color to cover up those blue parts and parts of the ear. All right, so that's probably going to be our lightest part of the face. We might add something a little bit lighter later, but right now we're going to go back to our darks. So I'm using burnt sienna, I'm using raw sienna, and a little bit of white. I still use white, but I try not to use too much. And so we're just going to use a little bit of white for this part. Okay, so I mixed up those colors, and now I'm going to test it to see if that is what I want. Gonna add a little bit more of the burnt sienna to this color. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to add that to the lip right there, the left part of the lip. I'm going to add that just right around the cookie. The side of the eye where there's that shadow. I'm going to put it right here below her neck. And I'm going to cover up that blue with that brown as well. And I'm going to come in. I don't know if I like that. I have to lighten that up later, but we're going to leave that. We're going to leave that. If you just paint that, that's fine. We're going to leave that, and we're going to use a different color for that. Okay, so now I'm going to paint the blue that we left over inside the ear with this color. That side, that blue, I'm going to cover up as well. Now I'm just trying to see if there's anything we left. There is a little bit of a line that goes right down. It's just so slight. Right down both sides. 2 lines that go on the left side of her face. I'm going to put that there. She also has a bit of fur that's kind of like discolored here on the side of her body. Okay. Well, I just want to have a bit of more of a shadow right there from the cookies. I'm going to carry this down a little bit more. All right, so now washing out our brush, we are going to move on to our next color. All right, so now that we have the dog base coat put down, we're going to add color to the cookies. And you can make these cookies any color you want, and I think I really want to get creative with the colors that I use for this. So the first color, I'm going to create like a pink, a dark pink. So I'm just using red with just a little bit of portrait pink. I want to make these look like almost like candy. And so I'm going to, I just made this dark pink, and I'm just going to go in, add this to a couple of them. I don't want to add this to all of them, but just a few. And if you make that a little bit bigger, that's okay. It's better that you go over than have leftover blue. And I'm going to add that one to 4th one up. I might want to do a second coat, so make enough of this color so that we can go back over it. This lake blue seems to be pretty dark, so that's why some of the lighter colors that we're putting over it doesn't show up as well. That's okay. So right now I'm going to, what color do I want to make? I want to make a light color, so I'm going to make a yellow. So I'm going to add white with yellow. Yeah. That might be too bright. We'll see how this goes. This might be way too bright. I like it. So I'm just making this, I just added white with yellow. Oh boy, and it really, the blue really shows up from the bottom. So we're gonna have to do another coat. And what else do I want? What's my next color? I wanna make a very vibrant orange. So how I'm gonna do that is just a little bit of red with a lot of yellow. Yellow is almost opaque, and when it's mixed with red, it can really be hard to get right. You know, it's just so hard not to use so much yellow to make it stand out. So if need be, I would recommend using more than one type of yellow. So you add regular yellow with a little bit of Naples yellow. That really can help to create that orange and combat that darkness of the red. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Well, not exactly what I was thinking, but I could deal. I could work with this. Yeah, I'm gonna work with this. Okay, so I'm gonna put that over the blue here. Okay, I am going to leave that cookie blue. I think so. I think I really like that pink and blue combination. What color do I want for the top? I want a different color than we've been using. What if I make a green? I mean, her name is Olive. Yes, I'm gonna make a green. So I'm gonna add yellow to that green to lighten it up a bit. I'm using grass green. Okay, and I'm gonna make that top cookie green. Looks so cute. I like this. Okay. Now the tricky thing about this is it just kind of looks like blobs on that she's carrying. It's hard to tell that they're cookies. So we're gonna have to figure out a creative way to add detail to this that helps it look like cookies. So, I mean, maybe we could add sprinkles to this. Maybe we could add just simply dark indents to make it kind of give it texture like a cookie. I'm gonna have to think about that. We shall see what is a good idea. But for now, let's let those dry, and then we can add a second coat to them because like this yellow is just not dark enough. And as we let that dry, we'll move on to the eyes and other parts of the mouth. Okay, so now we're gonna work on the eyes. We're gonna add those highlights and use some gray. We're gonna create some gray just to make that eye stand out a bit. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is just create a very light gray, a little bit of black, and I'm gonna go back to my detail brush. I'm just using this brush to mix, and now I'm gonna take my detail brush and add that gray. Oh, darn it, I just... Okay, so this black right here that we made, that's just a shadow. That's not actually her eye. So right underneath it, I'm gonna create this light gray right around that highlight. Okay, and I'm also gonna use this light gray just to outline that part of her eye, because this also isn't part of her eye. This is the eyelid. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing to the other eye, but the light reflecting, there's a light reflection in a different part of her eye. So, for instance, there is just going to be a white line that is just right around that part of her eye. I'm not covering up that blue because that's going to be white. I'm also going to add a white highlight, this light gray highlight around the eye lid that we did, as well as right underneath that shadow. Okay, that's why you really need a good detail brush for this, like a really thin one, because it helps us to get that tiny detail. I'm going to add a little bit of a gray right around that other highlight. Okay, so we're going to go back to the eye, but since we have this perfect gray, this is like the perfect gray for some of the highlights on the nose as well. Right now I'm just mixing up enough I want to test this to make sure it's light enough. Oh, wonderful. This is good. Okay, so I'm adding the highlight to the nose, just where the light is catching that nose, right on the right side. And it goes right underneath that nostril. And it actually kind of curls around the nose. Okay. Now I'm also going to put that on the other side of the nose where there's a little bit of light. And have that curl around that nostril as well. And then I'm going to put a little bit of that light around the other nostril. Lovely. Now this gray we're going to use to create that little bit of fuzz on her mouth. I'm using my brush in a way that makes it kind of look like hair. It's so little. They're not very long at all. And I'm going to have that extend to just the side. You don't want this too light so that it looks like a light mustache. So you kind of want this pretty darn close to that dark gray that we made. Now, because the light source is coming from here, I'm going to extend that up just a little bit around where we did that light tan, just a little bit. I'm also going to outline that lower lip with this gray, just like that. Now there's parts that I see that we kind of missed on the eye, and I really want to create that curve with the gray. And I also want to add a little bit of gray just right around the top of the eye. So I just did those two parts of the eye. And that is it for that gray. We're going to move on to white because we have white on her belly, on her chest, and then we have white highlights in the eyes. So I'm going to switch to that brush that we were using earlier, which is a small flat brush. I'm going to use, what do I want to put in? I'm going to use white with some portrait pink. I don't want solid white. I just want a little bit of that portrait pink in there. All right, and now we're just going to use that to paint in. I like to have some of that bottom color shine through, so I'm going to do that. I'm just going to be really loose with my brush strokes. And that's going to be her belly. Where else do I want white? That's really all it is. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. And it kind of goes out. I notice it kind of goes out a little bit on her chest. And I'm going to use this to extend to the bottom. You like my little, what do you call those things? Yeti. I'm using a Yeti lid so that I can see it a little bit better. Okay. Let me move this up more. Now I want to go back to my detail brush because we're going to go to the eyes and add that using this pinkish white. I'm going to create those highlights on the eye. So for one, there is a tiny, you don't want a whole lot of water on your brush when you're doing this. There's a tiny little bit of white right on the bottom of her eye. It goes just from about halfway and goes up. That's just the side of her eye, the white part. And then we just fill that spot in with this color that was blue. And so that kind of creates that shadow. So that's the eye, and then that's her eyelid that's opening up, and that looks like that shadow. I think I want to extend this up a little bit more. Okay, and now there isn't any white part other than the highlight on this eye. So I'm just going to add that white highlight there. And then there's a little white highlight right there. Now these pet portraits are so much easier when you have a good photo, and the owner of this, of Olive, is a great photographer, and so this photo really is helpful. It really captures the different light reflections. It captures the color very well. It really makes a great painting if you have a great photo, so definitely take note of that when you're trying to paint your pet. All right, so we're done with those highlights. Now I am going to go back to some of these darker areas that need to be a bit lighter. All right, so we're going to mix up a bit more of an orangey color. So I'm using Vermilion Orange, one of my favorites. And I'm going to add yellow, Naples Yellow to that. Okay, and raw sienna. Raw sienna, Naples Yellow. And I want to create a brownish orange. That's a little bit lighter than the darker colors that we put in earlier. So I'm going to test it, see if this is what I want. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Okay, so I'm going to lighten up some of these areas that are a little too dark. And I want to create that shadow that's representing her chest. I'm just going to create that down side of her body. I want to put a little bit right here. I'm just randomly putting them where, and this can be a hard step. Trying to find those medium tones is tricky. We can see them much lighter and you can see them much darker, but trying to find that in the middle, can be a bit tricky. So if you just watch where I place it, I'm finding some of this color right by the ears. Okay, yep, definitely some on the side of the ears. And now for her face. I'm probably going to paint over that dark, because that's a little too dark. I'm going over some of these areas because that bottom coat is just so dark, and so it shines through. I'm going to extend this down a little. I'm going to put a little orange there. So cute, so much color. I'm going to put some orange right here. Awesome. All right, so wash your brush out. We're going to move on to our next color. I want to create an orangey tan that isn't as dark as this one, because I actually think that we need to make that color a bit lighter and paint over it. And I that can sometimes happen. Sometimes the color we start with becomes too light or too dark. And so I'm using raw sienna with that orange that we just made, as well as a little bit of Naples Yellow. So Naples Yellow, raw sienna, and a little bit of that yellow vermilion orange combination that we made. And I'm going to test this to see how it is. And sometimes we might find some areas that we just want to leave that color. All right, so that is what I want. And I want that lighter than the one that I had previously. So just going to go around, and I'm even going to leave some parts of that dark tan there. Awesome. I'm going to get the side of the body, which is a bit lighter. I'm going to go over some of that dark brown. I'm going to create a little bit of a highlight on the side of her body here. Oh, I don't know if that was a mistake. I think that's actually supposed to be done here. All right, so paint this whole thing in, and we'll fix that up in a little bit. I want to put a little here. And I'm going to use this color to create that eyelid right there. And I'm also going to create a bit more of an eyelid right there. You know, it's funny, I think that's even, I'm going to keep that color, but I'm going to make an even lighter color. Because that shouldn't be, like this whole side is supposed to be darker, but it's not supposed to be that dark. So I'm going to add a bit more Naples Yellow to that color that we just made. And just a little bit of white. Because we don't want it lighter than that. We want to keep it a little bit darker than that. So let's see. Now is that too light? I think that'll be good. I think that's actually good. And once again, I'm not covering over all the colors. I'm just going to put them in certain spots. So cute. I'm really liking how this is turning out. Oh, forgot about this part. So I'm going to add a little bit of this color right there. A little bit up here. And on the side. Just randomly placing them where it should be just a little bit lighter. Okay. I think I want to put some more on the body. Yes, like right here. and not so dark. This is a little too dark. And this needs to be a little lighter. And it's lighter down there. That's how we're going to fix that. Just going to add that lightness there. The other place I want to put this is just right by the eye, just like that. Okay. Oh, there's one area right around there. Okay. Lovely. This is looking good. And so guys, now we're going to move on to, we are still not done with a lot of parts like the nose, and there's definitely whiskers that we need to add and stuff like that. So while we let the dog dry, we're going to move back to the cookies. So now what I'm doing is I'm just adding, remember how I said that these were, there's just almost some that are translucent. So like this yellow, I need to make a second coat. So if you have your spray bottle, that's when you spray your colors, because those might be dry by now. But I'm just going to use my small flat brush again to paint over, to make a second coat over those cookies. So that's the yellow. Now I'm going to move on to that pink we made. I accidentally added a little bit more portrait pink, but still looks good. That's still okay. Love it. This is looking cute. Okay. And next is our green. Whoops. Oh dear. I always manage to get dog hair in here. Okay. I might just leave it in there if I can't find it. Oh booger. Well. Okay, got it. Great. So that's that. Now, I think what I'm going to do, because I wasn't quite sure how I'm going to add that detail to make it look more like cookies, is I'm going to add a little bit of white or yellow to the colors that to these colors. And that's what I'm going to do to add some highlights, some angles and stuff. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Now this yellow will have to be a little bit different. We're going to have to, because that's such a light color, we're going to have to add some darker tones to that. So we're going to start with our green. And I'm going to add a highlight by just adding straight yellow to this. I'm adding straight yellow to that green that we just made. And I'm going to use my detail brush to make it look like the top is just getting most of the light, which it is. Okay, so the top is getting that light. The other part, because the cookies have kind of like sections, like it looks like blocky, just going to put that little thing right there. But I kind of want to create that angle on this cookie so that it looks like that. I really want to make it look boxy. Okay, we'll see how this turns out. This might not look exactly like I'm envisioning, but that's the fun part. All right, next I just washed up my brush. I'm going to move on to my pinks. I'm going to add lots of portrait pink to that. And yeah. Okay. I have way too much paint on my brush. I'm gonna add some, because the light is coming from the right, I'm gonna add a light highlight just to the side. And I'm actually finding that my paint is still wet, so if you need to wait a second for that to dry, go right ahead. I'm just gonna add a little bit more portrait pink, and I'm just gonna literally go straight in with my portrait pink and create that highlight. All right, once I did that highlight, I'm gonna create that line. Okay, I'm gonna kind of redo this other side because I lost it because it was wet. All right, so now I'm gonna move on to my yellow. Now my yellow is much lighter, and what I'm gonna use is raw sienna. I'm gonna use raw sienna, mix that in with a little bit of my yellow. And I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing with the others, is just add that line. Okay. And it gets darker on this side, so I'm going to create a shadow on that side. Okay. Now I thought of this cool thing, because we use raw sienna there and it kind of looks like that color. I'm going to add some of that yellow to that brown cookie, that orange cookie that we made, even though it looks brown. I'm going to add a yellow line. Ooh, and this is nice because this gets a really good highlight to that. We may have to or do another coat because I'm finding that it's mixing in with my dry. Just so impatient. I like to just do things fast all the time. It's hard for me to wait. And I'm going to do a highlight on the left side, just a little one. Looking good. I'm liking this. I'm liking it. Now, for this blue, what shall I do? I'm going to take some of that lake blue and just lighten it up a bit, add some white to it. And do the very same thing. Create that highlight. Oh, I love these colors. They're so pretty. So cool. I just love it. Just love it so much. Cute. Okay, so that's for the cookies. We are getting closer to the end. And then we're going to soon be with in touch-up phase, where we're just going to add touch-ups. So what are we going to work on next? We are going to work on the nose. I want to create a little bit more of a light gray blue to put over top this nose. So I'm going to take my Phthalocyanine Blue with my white and black. Now, those are the colors I use for the base coat. I'm just going to add a little bit more white. And I really want it to look pretty blue, so I want to put a decent amount of the Phthalocyanine Blue. Okay, I'm going to add, yep, this is good. Add a little bit more highlights in some of the areas that's getting more light. I want to add more blue and lightness to that one nostril, the right nostril, and just a little bit in the corner of the other. I'm actually going to extend this up a little bit and this over. Okay, so I'm going to wash out my detail brush. I want to create a dark outline because this is creating a shadow. I'm just going to take black and I'm going to create this outline. And it's going to come in. So just the top, and I just brought it in a little. I'm also going to use black to bring up that nostril a little bit and expand the nostrils. Those nostrils are a bit too small. So I'm going to lift them up a little. She's got a really beautiful nose. Only I would say that a dog is a beautiful nose. I'm just gonna define those nostrils a little bit better. So I just brought that black line up and I'm bringing it around. You want to have that nostril curve down. And just a little reminder, all this stuff on how to paint a nose is gonna be in my masterclass. I'm also going to use black to bring a little, create like a little V. Just like that. Okay. Moving on. We're going to, since we already have black on our brush, I accidentally, if you can see that, I brought too much of that orange down. So I'm going to use my brush just to define that a bit better. As well as that side little, it almost looks like she has, what do you call those? It's where like Chinese, like Asian eyes a little bit. And I'm going to bring that black in and up, just like that. Now for this side, I'm going to bring that, make that black again and bring it up a bit because I kind of went over it a little bit with my orange. Now it's really dark in here because there's that shadow. It's quite a big shadow from the cookies. All right, I'm gonna just make that really dark right around the eye. Awesome. All right, so that's that for black. I have two things I want to do. I want to create a shadow under each of these cookies with one color that I'm going to use, which is going to be we're going to mix up a color, but it's going to be the burnt sienna mixed in with some raw sienna. And with our detail brush, we're just going to create a little bit of a highlight, just very slight skinny highlight that's going to make all the difference. I'm holding my hand right now, my arm, so that I can keep my hand steady, because this part you really want thin. Now, I'm just doing this out of randomness. I don't know how this will turn out, but that's the fun part. I just will give it a try. I'm going to create a little bit of a darkness underneath this one cookie and a couple more that I'm seeing that darkness. So right under the pink. Right under here too. And now I'm going to add some little dots, because there's a few that we see in the photo. Little dots to these cookies. Okay, with my detail brush. I don't think I'm going to add any more dots to the other ones. I think I'm just going to leave them at the top there. Okay, and I'm also going to put this darkness underneath the left part of the cookie, and I'm going to bring it down towards the side of the nose. I'm standing up because I really want to see this from a different view, and that could really help you kind of pinpoint some of the areas that you want to touch up. Now, I like this brown, and I see some areas that would really benefit from it. So I'm going to take this brown and I'm going to put it just in the little pocket of the ear. I'm going to put it right there. Where else do I see that it needs? Oh yeah. I'm going to use there to be where she's kind of got that indent. I'm going to use this brown to kind of go at the very top where there's really not getting a whole lot of light there. And on the other ear, and in that pocket again. So cute. This is looking so good. There's a little line that kind of goes up on both sides, and I'm going to make that brown. All right, the other place that I see it is right by both eyes. So there's that little eyelid there, and then there's another one, and she's kind of giving that cute little smirk where the eyelid goes up a little bit higher on the other side, and it kind of wraps around both eyes. Okay. Where else? So I am going to go back and make that a bit darker, right around the mouth. Okay, so that's for the body. Great. Next, I'm going to use my flat small brush, my small flat brush, and I'm going to create a lighter color for that right side because I just want to give it a bit more contrast. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make raw sienna mixed in with white and Naples yellow. Okay, so let's test it and see how it is. I think we're good. I think that's light. I don't know if I want to make it too much lighter. There's that line again that I really want to capture, and it goes like that. Side of her face. And then the light is also hitting right here. And of course, the lightest part is right above her right eye. Right in that lip. And that lip is actually going to be much lighter. There's actually a light that is hitting the angle like that. And then a little bit over here, because it's kind of like wrapping around and on her head. I want to put a little bit on the side of her body. And I'm going to add a little bit around that marking. Let me move this brush. The last and final ones are just the highlights on the ears. There's just a few. And then a little bit around there. All right, guys, so I think We are just about done with the skin. Oh, there's actually a little highlight that's right there by her nose. I don't know how I feel about that part that I just made. But we're gonna move on. I'm actually gonna leave that and move on because we have to make the whiskers. Okay, so the whiskers are just using, this brush comes in handy so much for whiskers. I will sometimes use the side of my flat brush, but lately I've been using this one and it's really helpful. And all I'm gonna use is black, the tip of this brush, and I'm gonna start on the right side of animals. It's easier to do this, like I can't even say it, the lip out. But whenever I'm doing this, it's hard to do that because you have to literally hold your brush like that. So I go out, in, but I'm starting in, out for the left side. Okay, so I'm gonna just start from in a little bit. These are much smaller whiskers, so that might have been too long. So I might have to paint over that a little bit. But these are very, very thin and tiny, tiny, short whiskers. And they curl over a little bit. So on this side, I'm going to start out just a little bit and then come in. Starting out and then coming in. They just climb up the side of her mouth. And it goes up pretty far. It goes up to about here. If you find that you made a whisker too thick, because these are really thin and you don't want to make that stand out, you kind of want to make the eyes stand out, then you can paint over it and try again. I really don't want to have too much paint on my brush. I'm making some of these too thick, but that's okay. I can redo them. Okay, so I'm going to call it quits for my whiskers. I'm going to use black again. I just rinsed it out. I don't know why I rinsed it out. Because I have to make these little dots, just a couple, for around the grayish part we did. Those are where the whiskers are coming in from. Just doing these random dots all around the bottom part. Okay. The last thing we're going to do, guys, is put that final highlight on the nose right here. And with the same brush, I'm just going to take some Phthalocyanine Blue and white, just a little bit. And I'm going to create, oh, that's not white enough. You want to put a lot more white in there. Let's see it. Great. And I'm going to put that white just right around the top part of the nose and right around the nostril. And just a little bit on the other side and corner. All right. All right, guys, so if you see anything that you want to fix or change, if you want to change the background or lighten it up, I may just lighten up the background just a little bit. Okay, so now I actually think that I will make this background a little lighter. So what I'm going to do is take my lake blue with my white and my large flat brush. Add some white to this and go in with a lighter background color. Now I'm not going to cover up all of this. I love that look where it's kind of, some parts are dark, some parts are light. And sometimes I'm even adding in straight lake blue to parts of the canvas, like directly to the canvas. I'm not necessarily mixing it on my paint palette. Use a little bit more water. Oops, I'm moving around too much. And guys, you don't have to do this. If you would like to lighten up your background, this is great. But if you are done and you think that your olive looks beautiful, then obviously you are done. All right, guys, so I think I am done. Just make sure that you sign your painting, and I just thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, just leave a comment below. But guys, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you so much. Bye.